vintage bottles were cool. Slowly becoming interested in early medicine and the apothecaries of old. So folks, this is not my first time here, nor my first video. I am back at the Ellicott City B&O Railway Museum. And the lower room down there and this room here are just kind of living and working quarters. A little shot of downtown. Here I think are the really telling exhibits up here. There's John Work Garrett, president of the B&O. First news of President Lincoln of the Battle of Monacacy came to him from the B&O. And the B&O and John Work Garrett were very instrumental in the particular battle, the Battle of Monacacy. Get a screenshot here, guys. Hopefully. It's a telegraph from John Garrett to Edwin Stanton. July 9th, 1864. And I've showed all this in the first videos, which I'll link because they'll be a little different. But these twin events happening virtually at the same time. So we've got, around 1830 when the railway picks up. We've got 1844 when Morse's first message across the telegraph, "What hath God wrought?" Very telling, was sent. These were sea change events. These were landmark events in our history. So here's a little telegraph office. Relay is Relay, Maryland, which is between Ellicott City and Baltimore. Really cool. Really cool. There's a family in here I'm trying to avoid. So I've been driving on this for quite a while now, and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep driving it as long as I'm making videos here. Technological revolutions, folks, are extremely profound and have a lot to do with the events that surround them in the context. I might try to get back to that in a second. One heck of a general. I've already gone over a bit about Lew Wallace, both here and in other videos. Let's step outside. They're probably out here at the caboose or something, but when technological revolutions happen, there are two primary results. Two primary results. Do you guys know what they are? Give you a sec. There's one that's kind of easy and one that's a little tougher. Oh, this is so cool. Look at these old spikes. I mean, these are probably a different age, but trust me, I mean, some of these are very old. Really cool. The first effect that happens after a technological revolution, industrial revolution, is a population explosion. So that's why I started where I started. In that first shot in the poster, it mentioned that in 20 short years between, I think it said 1840 and 1860, the population of Ellicott City, or Ellicott's Mills as it was still known back then, jumped from about 500 to 1,450. So it almost tripled. it almost tripled, but not within 50 years, not within 100 years. It almost tripled in 20 years. And that might sound like, wow, when or where has that ever happened before? Well, guess what? It happened about everywhere that the railroad passed by. It happened in about every American town that the railway made its way to. Don't forget, at this same time, we also had the building of the canals. So the Erie Canal was, well, it depends which decade we're using as yardstick, but the Erie Canal was already completed, and the C&O, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, was still being constructed because it took them a lot longer. But if you think about the canals transporting goods, major waterways for the first time in history, then you take into account the railway transporting even more goods and people for the first time in history, and then you take into account the telegraph. There is absolutely no way that these events would not have a profound change on society. So the first major change is a population explosion, and there are tons of other aspects, you know, to mention, but the first major change is a population explosion. What's the second major change that happens after technological revolution, class? Any guesses? The second effect is that there's a lot less need for labor, as I've mentioned over and over again, but I'm gonna keep driving it home, and some people are just joining in. There is a much reduced need for labor after a industrial revolution. So is it really that hard? Is it really that blasphemous for somebody to say that slavery was just a wedge issue, and that it was the Industrial Revolution and also revolutions in finance, which I've mentioned, that lead us to these events? And that there were other people at the time who understood this. See, you know, people in the 19th century, dare I say, were a bit brighter than folks are these days. That's for different reasons, and I'm not going to get into it. Oh, that's cool. Look, this block, 1875. So cool. Ellicott City granite right here. That's what this whole building is made of. Is it really that crazy to think that these things were already set in motion? That the leaders of the country understood these things, understood that we weren't going to need the slaves. Also, when, you know, the factories popped up all over the place, let's think about this pragmatically. It costs money to have slaves. It costs money to feed them and to house them, does it not? So once we got all these factories up, right? Once farm equipment was mechanized, you really still think it was just Abe Lincoln that freed the slaves, or was it technology that freed the slaves in industry? Because of course I think the latter is true. I'm already up to my time alone, guys. I can't believe this, but I'm gonna keep driving this home. This really wasn't meant to be a tour of the museum, but I certainly implore all who are in Central Maryland to come visit it, because it's really cool. And I'll link my kind of tour videos in the description. Till next one, guys.